So I was going to bring you this game before that is now the thumbnail. So you may like to check that out on Twas under my profile NZ40TEDs. But then I came up with this game. The other game was player 2400 or something like that, 2480 or 24, just say 2382, and that was 5 minute chess. Whereas this is a classical game. I've played 3 classical games on Chess today, as they have their Saturday or once a week classical arena. I didn't play any berserk mode at all. I played 20 minutes plus increments. So this game I bring you is this last third Chess classical game that I played. And so I hope you enjoy it. And here we go now. Okay, so let's have a look at this position. Let's have a look at this game. And as you can see on the left of your screen, or is it on the right? In chess, be like a wasp. And squeeze that there orange. So, let's have a look. I have to take myself off the screen, don't I? Okay, I better take... Oh, I don't have to. I can, but I don't have to. It's probably better to. Oh, I'll stay on. So this is quite a technical sort of setup for black that's sort of hard for white to sort of decide what to do. Or it is for me anyway. So I go with this idea that I think about this great white squared bishop now for black with the bishop on b7. So I set about a planned line that I've already thought of in other games, and so I repeat it because it isn't broken and I don't need to fix it. So I look at this square here, e4, because this is sort of like a very important square. I've said this before. This square is very, very important in this sort of setup. So at the moment, black's got control over, even though they aren't sitting on the square, they are in control of it, whereas I'm not. I haven't got my knight to sit on e5 for obvious reasons, which I will not go on about. So I have to think, what will I do next? So I go after bishop e7, knight bd2. So I'm still going to cut. I'm still going to develop somewhat, but then comes castling. Now, so here is my wee idea, which I play a lot, is knight g5. So I'm now covering the e4 square. Okay, so we both have equal influence on the e4 square, but then comes about h6. So to keep it sort of like kind of equal, status quo sort of thing, I play here bishop f3, which is of course threatening to win in exchange. And now I have 3 things looking at this square, and black has 2. So I've cheated black from that. Now after bishop f3, I can actually play queen f3, but I want to be sort of sensible because I have to respect my opponent, whose rating is like 2182 in classical. So I played knight gf3. So I'm still looking at e4, you see. So I've still got this wee plan of looking at e4, but my opponent just seems to play very well. a6, b5, and make something out of this this minority attack more or less, that I'm facing here on the queen side from black. So the whole thing is that this looks pretty sort of like no problem. But all of a sudden, black starts to get some play on the queen side, which was kind of annoying. So I played bishop d2 and queen b6. So I'm just wanting to get out of the way of this diagonal. Or shall I say this diagonal, the queen, and this pawn being pinned. So I just want to move my king to h1. And notice I've got the square e4 at the moment, okay? Here comes b4. Okay, well, yeah, fair enough. Black's now in the middle game sort of thing. And I play knight f6, bishop f6, and then I play bishop e3, queen a5, c4, queen f5. Here, pardon me, here I was thinking of playing bishop g1 or something like, yeah, bishop g1. So here I was thinking of playing bishop g1, and thereupon queen f4 was entertained at least with the move knight to e5, which of course black doesn't have to go in for that sort of thing. Yeah, so I was thinking of bishop g1 and queen f4 and knight e5, which will possibly win material, probably win the knight on c6. But I didn't. I here went rook a d1, so I'm overprotecting my d4 pawn. Knight e7, and here comes b3 and queen e4. So here I probably should just step out of the way and go queen d2. Oops. Queen d2. If knight e5, then bishop g1 again. But it's a completely different game than what we got. I play knight d2, and like this is a move that is going backwards, kind of. And maybe I'm just overbearing my thoughts about the square e4, which black has absolute control of, except for my knight attacking it at this stage. So here's queen c2. So for a classical game of chess, this is been my darkest hour. No, but I mean, I sort of have to do something a bit better than knight d2, I think. So I went with this. Queen c2, what would you do now? Please note that this doesn't mean that the game is great for white after my move. But it started to take the game into the sort of position that I like for white or black, or white or black. So here we go. Let's have a look. I played rook c1. Now this is offering a whole pawn up for black, and black does take it. But the queen is wriggling around a wee bit to get this pawn. And the other thing is that I can sort of, for meanwhile, I can actually threaten the queen. But the queen's always got a space on c3 if I place my queen to d3 like I do. So if I start going after the queen now with the rook and the other rook, then white would be probably met with queen b2 and queen c3. So realizing that, I have my opponent play queen a5 anyway. So what was it all about? I don't know. And here I go, knight e4. Now, you might ask, what happens about now? Black can play queen f5. It looks a really good move, doesn't it? But what can I play in response to queen f5? What's the sort of move that you'd play for queen f5? And like I say all the time, doesn't mean that this is the best move on the planet. I can't go knight d6, can I? Because, duh, I could go knight f6 check and then take the queen next move, but I'm a pawn down. So what can I do after queen f5? Just a wee tactic. You know me. So my wee tactic is, of course, g4. Oh, but you're just giving away another pawn. We gonna? Queen g4. Duh. Yeah, but that's no good, because what happens next is we have the classic. Royal fork with knight f6 check and winning the queen. No, you don't. You do not, because we just have gf6. Duh. Oh, but hang on. After gf6, otherwise knight takes queen, or queen h7 checkmate, we have gf6, we have rook g1, don't we? And all of a sudden the queen is sitting there going, I can't do anything. So there's things in this position, okay? So black now thought, well, I've had my feed. I'm going to go back and defend my d6 pawn and start to throw my a pawn and win the endgame. So I'm thinking, well, what am I going to do now? Okay, so I started to think a little bit. Yep, that was enough. And I went knight f6 check, because it looks good. It crunches up black's kingside pawns. And then after gf6, what do you think I played next? What do you think you'd play next? What's the sort of move you want to play next move? It's a pretty easy one. It's sort of like breakthrough, isn't it? So I played f5 here. Now, if knight f5, then rook f5. If ef5, well, I might just go bishop to h6 take, and I'm probably going to do okay out of that position with a bishop on c1 to f8 diagonal, if you get what I'm saying. So f5, now came king g7 because black's worried. So if knight f5, I'm going to go rook f5 every day of the week. Rook f5, and then I'm going to swing my rook over, or I'm going to take that h pawn, or whatever I'm going to do. And it's going to be pretty nasty play, David. Okay, so king g7. So here I soften the pawns up. It might not be the ideal thing, but I soften the pawns up with fe6, and I also take away a little bit of the bit of tension in the camp of white to deliberate over what the heck do I do about this situation here. So I don't want to just swap off, because if I swap off and get equal, then I'm going to lose this game. So fe6. And if you look at here, if you look at black's pawn formation, it's not bad, but it's not great either, is it? And whether or not I play the right move now, like I keep saying, is another story. But I played queen d2, rook h8, and now rook f4, knight g6, rook g4, a5. How would you like to continue? Okay, I heard you. Rook f1. Yes, of course. Rook f1 is making sure that everyone is in the party. Now comes h5, and I have to move my rook out of the way because otherwise it's going to get taken. So go to rook g3. Now, queen b7, I'm not sure. I think this is a mistake. And so what's the sort of move you're going to play now? Realizing that white will lose this if they go for the endgame. So what sort of thing are we going to play now? We're going to break the board up. We're going to break the board up. We're going to go going to break the whole thing up because I feel like breaking the board up. So, but what I mean by that is I played d5. So this is softening up the pawns. It's giving me spaces for my pieces or my rooks, because my rooks do not like pawns. I've asked them, they told me. I haven't really asked them. They haven't really told me, but I'd just like to say that because it sounds good, doesn't it? No, it doesn't. It sounds like I've got an illness. We won't talk about that. So d5, and now we have e5. I think that queen b7 here is not a good move. Black needs to maybe even just play h4, but then rook g4 and then f5 and rook g5, stuff like that. But it's, it's I don't think that there's anything majorly happening for black, except the king is pretty weak, and this is a very strong bishop with the queen behind it, battery. So this is quite a strong bishop, but maybe black can survive this. I'm not sure. So queen b7, d5, e5. If e d5, not queen d5, because then queen d5, c d5, and black's a clear pawn up, even though they have some difficulties with, they still have some difficulties in their position, but the pawn should possibly win or draw at the end. So d5 comes about e5. Now, there's a very sensible, logical, obvious, basic move to play here, which is, of course, queen d3, which threatens queen g6 check. Okay, so, or threatens, it threatens rook g6 check. So what's the move you're going to think of playing for black to defend queen g6? Futile is rook h6, because rook h6 is met with bishop h6 check, and then whatever black plays I will respond to. But will probably be at least queen g6 check, or maybe even checkmate if the king is silly enough to take back on h6. How does that go? Yeah, well, the king can't take back on h6. Yes, it can, because I've got my queen on d3. So the move that was played was queen f7. So what's your next move? So after queen d3, queen f7, what's your next move? The next move was this, okay? So I hope you saw it. Queen d3, queen f7, fair enough. Bishop g5. And that is the game that I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this game today, and I do hope that you enjoyed this game, and all the best with your chess, no matter where it's at. And primarily, try to enjoy the game of chess. That's most important. And don't forget the 5 respects which are: 1, respect your opponent, respect your opponent's pawns and pieces. Number 2. Number 3, respect yourself. Number 4, respect your own pawns and pieces. And number 5, respect the game of chess. So thank you very much. That's David Wegener over and out, and I'm out of here. Bye for now. See ya.